Welcome to UO Today. I'm Barbara Altman, Director of the Oregon Humanities Center. Our guest today is Rich Linton, outgoing Vice President for Research and Graduate Studies and Dean of the Graduate School at the University of Oregon. He served the UO in this capacity from 2001 to 2011. In addition to overseeing more than 70 graduate programs, Linton was responsible for over 30 interdisciplinary centers and institutes, ranging from the physical and life sciences to the social sciences and the humanities. As the UO's Chief Research Officer, Linton oversaw sponsored research, research compliance, technology transfer, and the Riverfront Research Park. Over the past decade, the university set records in sponsored program awards, predominantly for research programs, surpassing $136 million in the past fiscal year. Among its peers in the Association of American Universities, the UO ranked third in funded research growth per faculty member over a recent 5-year period. The university's intellectual property licenses and agreements have reached over $7 million annually, placing the UO among the top 25 institutions in the nation. 14 of the 33 interdisciplinary centers and institutes were established during Linton's tenure as Vice President. 3 leadership positions were created to support innovation, strategic partnerships, interdisciplinary research, and graduate education. Integrative science initiatives attracted more than $200 million in private, state, and federal investments for facilities, programs, and infrastructure. The University of Oregon has become one of the 108 institutions chosen from all universities in the United States for the top-tier designation of Very High Research Activity in the 2010 Carnegie Classification of Institutions of Higher Education. Rich, welcome to UO Today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I think the last time you were interviewed for this program was early on in the job, right?
Early on, the dark ages, apparently.
Now, you know, I happen to know a lot about the dark ages. I'm not sure that qualifies, but we're very pleased that you took the time to talk to us as you're wrapping things up. A great deal has happened in the last 10 years. You've made a great deal happen here. Are there a few accomplishments you would want to highlight?
You just made a very nice list, I think, of some of the accomplishments. I guess I would always start by saying, you know, what I'm most happy about, what I'm most proud of is really the people here, which means, of course, the faculty, the students, the staff, and my administrative colleagues, all of them pulling together to help elevate the scholarly work that we do at the university. And I think the last 10 years has been a testament to them, nothing that I've done in particular. I think it's what they have accomplished collectively. The metrics, I think, speak for themselves, as you just highlighted. I think it's extremely important that we retain our visibility as a leading research university in the country, and we know the challenges that we face every day in that regard. But I think we do have very unique capabilities. I love the human scale of the university as a leading research institution. And one of the things that attracted me here, probably said in the interview with Steve Schenkman many years ago and would say again, is the nature of the interdisciplinary connections that the university fosters. I think the physical environment, the scale of the institution, the quality we have in the core disciplines, but yet receptivity to crossing intellectual boundaries. And that has really excited me since day one and excites me more as we look to the future and new leadership coming into my role.
It took me a long time here as a faculty member to understand why the university's research production, the number of grant dollars brought in, is actually really important for the prestige and standing of the institution. Can you explain that a little further?
You know, I think we don't do a very good job at capturing outcome and impact of research in metrics. We do a much better job on the front end. How much money do you bring to support a project? We don't often talk as much as we should about what that project brings to society. So I think one of the challenges that I continue to face is how to get that whole linkage made between investment and outcome. So I think that's one of the challenges we face, but if you do get that investment, that alone is a validation, I think, of the quality of the work and its relevance. Yet we're also a basic research institution by core mission. part of the challenge is to make sure that we build what we now talk about as an innovation ecosystem, which means moving from the beginning, the glimmer of an idea in a faculty member's head, all the way through to where can it actually translate to support a societal need. And it doesn't mean that our faculty have to move through that entire spectrum. We need to provide the capacity and infrastructure so wherever their passion truly lies, wherever the value really lies in how they perceive their work, we should be connecting to that. So we need to move through that spectrum, and I think we're doing a better and better job of providing the capability to do that, from basic research investment, federal dollars primarily, to tech transfer and commercialization of research when that's appropriate, and creating business opportunities coming out of our research, like the many companies now that we house in the research park that are directly connected in one way or another to our research.
It sounds as though that piece of your work has been really dramatically successful. What's called innovation income has risen 24-fold in, I'm not sure how many years, but within that decade for sure, right? So is this something that you have very actively cultivated from the beginning of your tenure in the job?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I spent years in the Research Triangle of North Carolina, and the Research Triangle Park is world famous as a place where research universities partner with the private sector to promote innovation. And so I come with that really in my experience and in some of my leadership roles in North Carolina. It wasn't like I was trying to export that model necessarily to Oregon, but I know when I interviewed, I talked a lot about collaboration and connection for the work, and I already saw opportunities, lots of connection at the individual faculty level, but how could we elevate that, make it more systemic, make it more strategic, connect to both state and national needs in the process. So I think we've made a lot of headway in those ways.
Rich, before you devoted yourself full-time to administration, you were a very active analytical chemist. You've got you're a co-author on 170 publications, probably a lot more by now. You supervised dozens and dozens of doctoral students at UNC Chapel Hill. So you had this very defined research field of your own. And then you moved in this position where you had to oversee the full panoply of a research university that goes from everything in on the most humanities-oriented end of it to the most hard science end of it. Was that a challenge to wrap your mind around that full spectrum?
I think that's one of the great virtues of the job. I've often described it as one of the best, if not the best job in the university because of that breadth. It also becomes all-consuming. And well, much like for faculty, I think the job is very open-ended. And I think this one is to the extreme because of the nature of all the management work you have to do day to day to operate the university and its research enterprise. But at the same time, if you want to be proactive and strategic and lead based on what I know about faculty interests and motivations, to build platforms to let them have broader impact and broader opportunities to support their work. So a wonderful job. When I came here, I really had my eyes wide open. I knew I wasn't going to be actively pursuing my own research work in a chemistry laboratory here. I had done that all my years in North Carolina. And I'm thankful I didn't have that aspiration because there would just have not been much capacity to do that. But I've been delighted that some of the work that I did as a researcher is so well represented here, particularly in the areas of nanoscience and microtechnology and techniques to probe the chemistry and manipulate the chemistry of materials at atomic scale resolution. So it's been a great outlet for me because that's where my own scholarly interests were some years back, and just to see the evolution of that science and our big investments in facilities, equipment, laboratories, and initiatives that help build around things like that.
So having been a faculty member, having been an active researcher, gave you the kind of entree into understanding this on a wider scale.
Yeah, I think part of the validation in this work is to understand at a relatively deep level what what the research is all about. And I think having a scientific background positions one well for this kind of job, but we also have to be, as you well know, representative of the wide scholarship that the university pursues, and the humanities and the arts and all the professional schools and their scholarship. They're all important as well, and our office tries very hard to represent that broader range of work and to help support that as well.
Yeah, we've always been grateful that you have understood intuitively and very actively that there are different measures of value, and that the dollar figure brought in by a unit is not necessarily commensurate with its importance in the greater structure of the university.
Correct.
So you've been a great advocate for the humanities, for which we're very grateful.
Thank you. I know you called me a humanist chemist at one point
I
recently.
did, and a humanist
It was
administrator.
one of the nicest compliments I've ever had, I think, so I appreciated that.
Good. Well, you've fully earned. We only have time for one more question, Rich. I think our time's going quickly. I wanted to get back to ways in which we measure the impact of a research institution on the local economy, the state economy, the national economy. You are called upon, you have been called upon to represent the U of O in a national context with other research universities, but also very much more locally at the state level, the county level, even the city level. Can you speak just briefly in the couple of minutes we have left about the community links you have forged in your 10 years?
Thank you. Yeah, I think part of the job is very much an outwardly looking perspective and trying to integrate what we do with societal activity, and certainly the economic development piece is one of the absolute key elements. So working with the Eugene Chamber of Commerce, what we call the Lane Metro Partnership, which is about economic development in this county. I helped support the Oregon Innovation Council at the state level, governor appointed, which really focused on niches between our university strengths and private sector industry strengths in the state. And we've had great success in initiatives such as our nano science initiatives that the U of O is so prominently involved in. So I think my successor, Kim Espy, who you'll be interviewing shortly, will be a very strong advocate for continuing that, and I think that's a key way that we can help educate our citizenry about the importance of research to the future of our state. And we need to work hard on that every day, and it's important to build those ties and connections in all the communities of the state. Our president, Richard LaRiviere, I think has made that a key emphasis in his early tenure at the university, and I think we're very well positioned for our state and our nation to more and more appreciate the impact of our research to the economy and the future of our country.
Thanks for talking to me today.
It's been a pleasure.
We've been speaking with Rich Linton, outgoing Vice President for Research and Graduate Studies and Dean of the Graduate School at the University of Oregon. Thank you for watching. Welcome back to UO Today. As a follow-up to our interview with Rich Linton, our second guest is Kimberly Espy, the U of O's new Vice President for Research and Innovation and Dean of the Graduate School. Espy is a trained clinical neuroscientist and professor of psychology, and served as Associate Vice Chancellor for Research at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln from 2005 to 2011. She was responsible for strategic interdisciplinary initiatives, research compliance and faculty development, and she worked closely with the Vice Chancellor for Research and Economic Development and along with his staff on matters pertaining to budget, policy and planning, administrative issues, facilities, communications, and economic development. Espy began work at the University of Oregon on July 1st, 2011. As VP for Research and Innovation, she provides leadership and strategic direction for research efforts and programs. Espy oversees most of the UO's multidisciplinary research centers and institutes, the research infrastructure, compliance and regulatory environment, and innovation and commercialization efforts, including the research park. Espy is now the UO's point person in the development of innovative partnerships and collaborations across the state. Kimberly, thanks for coming.
Oh, sure. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
It's really great for us to be able to present outgoing and incoming and to do this as a dual program. So I know you're a busy woman. We'll only keep you 15 minutes this time, and we'll do a full half hour next time.
I'll look forward to it.
Kimberly, you are multifaceted. You are not an administrator only by any means. What drew you to the University of Oregon, and what is your full portfolio?
Sure. What drew me to the University of Oregon is the talent of the faculty, staff, and students. It's a beautiful campus with all sorts of great work, and it's my pleasure to be here to help spearhead the efforts in research, innovation, and graduate education.
Well, that's a great start. I knew you had other options, so we're very glad that you ended up here.
It's a great campus.
And I know that a lot of your working life is going to be on the administrative things side of things, running the centers and pushing forward our innovation and research quantity and quality. You yourself are a researcher. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I am. As you said, I'm trained as a clinical neuroscientist. My work is funded by NIH and NSF, and I study how young children come to pay attention to the things they should and not pay attention to those they shouldn't, and then how to flexibly shift their attention when the contingencies change. I do that in both typically developing children as well as those who may be affected by different medical conditions. So I have a couple of different projects that keep me very active. My lab is still in Nebraska, although I'm in the process of transferring it over. And I look forward to hopefully having a little bit of time to interact with my colleagues here on campus in that manner.
Well, that's part of my question is.
A little bit of time.
Yes, how do you build in that little bit of time? It's a big project.
Sure, it is. It is. You know, though, it is a lot of work and a lot of time, but at the same time, it's something that's, I think, connects me to our research and scholarship here on the campus, and that I'm facing some of the same struggles that our faculty and staff are on campus. And so it does help keep you connected and informed with some of the burdens that come down from the feds, for example, some of the challenges of finding support for your work. And I use those experiences to help me think through how can I move the campus forward too. So I find it's important. And so while it may be a little bit of time in my week, and sometimes I'm working on editing papers on the weekends and in the evenings, that connection is quite important to me, and it really drives how I approach my administrative duties.
So you do intend to keep up your own research work?
As long as I can. We'll see how that goes. But I certainly am committed to trying to do so at this point.
The project is called the Development Cognitive Neuroscience Lab, is that correct? And you're hoping, in fact, if I understood you correctly, to move it to Oregon?
Yes, some of the activities will move. The projects are longitudinal, so we follow the same set of children across time. And so unfortunately, my startup package didn't include moving 400 families to Oregon. So there are some logistics that will need to take place in Nebraska, but at the same time, we're starting new studies that include neuroimaging and different kinds of outcomes. So there's some potential, some exciting collaborations here on campus that may be possible in the long run.
Well, I think it's wonderful to have someone in the central administration who's also working as an active researcher, because it really does keep the link very fresh between what you're doing and what all the rest of us are doing on the front lines.
It sure does.
I have a question for you, Kimberly, about the title of the job. It changed between Rich Linton's tenure as VP Research and yours. So what is the significance of renaming your position?
Okay. I felt it was important to directly add the innovation title, because that's such a central part of what Rich had accomplished on the campus, as well as a focus as a part of the national conversation. Universities are increasingly looked to increase economic development, to move our discoveries here in the lab, on campus, into the marketplace, be it educational software, books, research, tools, diagnostics. And given our progress and accomplishments to date, and the national conversation that makes it important that we continue to do so, it seemed to make sense to me to have that word in my title.
So VP for Research and Innovation.
And they go hand in hand. We have innovation all over our campus. Innovation is really new knowledge and new discovery, and the application of that towards some product or towards some societal benefit. And we all do that on campus. And so to me, it seemed to reflect the activities of our faculty, students, and staff.
How does the graduate school piece fit in there? You are also Dean of the Graduate School, correct?
Yes, I am Dean of the Graduate School. And from my perspective, that integration, graduate students often form the glue with what happens on campus. They're spurring new innovation and discovery. They're the ones who are in the library looking something up, finding things for their mentors. through their own independent research. They're the ones that are often combining a tool in one lab to application in another. And so that integration was quite important, I thought, to reflect the breadth of what goes on the campus in the research, innovation, and graduate education sphere. It is a big job, and I'm fortunate to have so many wonderful colleagues in the graduate school and on the research innovation side who really help bring the whole mission together into one.
What marks success in your job? How are you going to assess whether it's all working well?
You know, in my mind, administration is best when you don't see it, right? And that, you know, that from the perspective of a faculty or staff or student, that you can do your work in a relatively unencumbered way and you feel supported to take your work from one level to go to the next. So what I view success is to take the campus from where we are now and go to that next level. That is building more interdisciplinary programs, including research programs, graduate education programs that follow those. You know, to really move the campus at that level. We have a lot of challenges, though. The federal climate, be it support from our public as well as support from the federal government, is flat, if not declining. And yet we have a huge amount of faculty talent that are looking for support for their work. You know, resources are tight on campus. The state of Oregon historically has not been a great supporter, at least financially, in terms of our mission, and that puts real challenges on what we can do. And so in some ways I feel as though to be a good steward of our dollar, we have to collaborate and make things stretch as far as we can. So the research office can be quite instrumental in helping to make that happen.
I'm always interested in how research and innovation forms a part of the character or the definition of what the U of O is. We're a Research One institution. We're one of only two Pacific Northwest schools who are members of the American Association of Universities, along with the University of Washington.
Right.
They've been members since 1950. We've been members since 1969. The U of O was designated a very high research activity institution by the 2010 Carnegie classification. So obviously it's something that defines us. Are those crucial pieces of U of O's identity?
Yes, very much. And the reason I say that is because it's a marker or validator of the talent that we have here in terms of our faculty, staff, and students. In and of itself, is that distinction that important? Would it change what we're doing on campus? Probably not, and that we still have a very talented set of employees, right? But at the same time, that is a real marker of the educational and research excellence we have going on here on campus. And so it is quite important. And I certainly view one of the missions of my office to continue to promote that faculty excellence.
I'm assuming that you also participate on national boards that represent the AAU, for example. So it's an important club of sorts to belong to.
Yes, it sure is. Actually, I just got back from the grad dean's meeting, and you know, we're wrestling nationally with those kind of conversations. And University of Oregon, it's important that they're a player at that table.
Now, I can understand how the metrics in terms of number of dollars brought in apply readily to the sciences, sometimes to the social sciences. Is it harder to come up with real metrics for how we're doing on the humanities side?
You know, you raise a really interesting question in that research dollars are easy to count, right? But that doesn't mean they always count what matters, correct? And research dollars are an easy proxy for some of the activities that are going on the campus. Certainly that is not applicable typically to the humanities. Things like books and the publisher and honors. Those typically are a better marker of the distinction of our faculty in those areas. Now, my office isn't about dollars, right? I mean, dollars are used to support the great activities that we have going on the campus. So we care about dollars where they can help us to reach our goals and enable the research and scholarship mission. But in and of themselves, they're just proxies or markers for some things that are happening on segments of our campus. So I feel it's quite important to take a very holistic view that my office is about promoting excellence in research and scholarship and creative activity. And so we need to look at a wide variety of metrics that are appropriate for the circumstance and context.
That is certainly a great answer from my point of view. As the director
of
the Humanities Center, no, that was terrific. I'm very glad you take that broad view. We have 3 or 4 minutes left. What are your biggest items on the to-do list? What are your priorities for this year?
Sure. One of the things that always serves us well in the long run is I view my office as a place that makes investments. So we invest in infrastructure, we invest in bringing new faculty here to campus, and as I said earlier, the resources by which we have to make those investments is limited. That certainly is priority one in thinking strategically about where can we invest in both faculty talent and infrastructure to help take the university to the next level. And that competition for those resources, both internally as well as externally in terms of federal dollars, is quite acute. And so I would say that's priority one. I've been thinking carefully about how my office is structured and is it meeting the needs of our campus faculty, staff, and students. Perhaps there's some ways that we can organize to gain greater efficiency and effectiveness, to reduce some of the burden on faculty. While I may not be able to instantly infuse a lot of resources, sometimes reducing burden can have as big of an impact. And so we're thinking carefully about those. So those would be two that we're starting in on pretty rapidly that I think should make a difference fairly soon.
You haven't had a whole lot of time to work on that. You've only been here since July the 1st.
3 months, that's right.
Do you need any more time to get the lay of the land, or do you feel you're ready for the reorganization?
Oh, well, you know, that's always a process, and I have spent the last 3 months going out and talking to faculty and meeting students and staff and trying to learn about the institution. At the same time, I certainly recognize that 3 months is certainly inadequate to really understand, you know, the deeper aspects and the fabric of really who the University of Oregon is. But that's a fun challenge. I love getting out and seeing all the great work that's going on our campus. It's just a pleasure, and every day I'm more and more surprised by, look what he's doing or she's doing. It's just, it is like the old drinking from a fire hose. At the same time, we certainly can't wait until I feel as though I know every nook and cranny of this institution, that we have some real challenges and we need to move forward. So it's a balancing act, and I'm certainly trying to find that right tipping point. And I really welcome emails, calls, visits to help me get to know the institution better, because it's that kind of feedback that helps us move forward in the long run.
That's great, and I'm sorry to tell you we're out of time.
Well, there you go.
We will bring you for longer next time for sure. Kimberly,
great.
Thanks for taking this this quarter hour out of your day. We really appreciate you being here.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you, Barbara. It's my pleasure.
We've been speaking with Kimberly Espy, Vice President for Research and Innovation and Dean of the Graduate School at the University of Oregon. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.